Hi everybody, welcome to the Sportsocology Show. I'm your host, Bill Knutson. It is Saturday, August 2nd, 2014. Hope you're having a great day so far. I've got a few things to get into, so I'm going to get right into business. If you follow baseball, which I certainly do, have my whole life, the trading deadline just passed the other day, and there were some interesting things that went on. Of course, my Mets are, kind of confused maybe. They're kind of, we're slightly, somewhat, sorta, kinda in the playoff hunt. They were only about 6 games out of the last wild card spot. But it's not that they're 6 games back with like 55 games to go, which isn't horrible. But there are 6 teams in front of them. That's really the thing. You can catch up 6 games if it were just a team or two that you had to catch, but when you have to catch 6 other teams that are in front of you for 2 spots, that makes the odds like slim and none, and I think Slim is on vacation, so, that kind of made the Mets not really be able to do anything, at least for this year, but I'm hopeful that maybe during the winter, I was hearing that they might try couple of things during the off season, and with a couple of young pitching prospects that seem to be looking pretty good, and hopefully getting Harvey back at 100%, maybe the Mets will be worth watching next year. I think I'll get the MLB extra innings package so I can watch all my Mets games down here in Atlanta. But anyway, there were some interesting things that happened during the trading deadline. The Oakland A's did a lot. Now, they got Jeff Samardzija a few weeks, maybe it might be a month now, before the trade deadline from the Cubs, and they made one of the big splashes the other day. They got Jon Lester from Boston, so now they've added Samardzija and Lester to what was the best lineup in baseball, so they've got something serious going on. Now, I know they had to let go of one of their best hitters, and Cespedes, sent him to Boston to get Jon Lester. But now, instead of the A's, with Billy Beane as their GM, just doing a really good job getting, good pieces to be competitive, they've been doing that for a while. They made the Moneyball movie for Billy Beane, the GM out in Oakland, and I'm not questioning how good he is. He's really good. But he has no championships yet. He's got a small market out there in Oakland, and he's had some pretty good teams and things like that. But the last couple of years, they've lost to Detroit in the first round. Even last year, they had home field advantage and still couldn't get by the Tigers. Now that they've made the move for Samardzija, like I said, about a month ago, and the other day they got a big-time lefty in Jon Lester, now it goes from, okay, Billy Beane's done a really good job in a small market, to now you've got studs on your team, and now you're one of the favorites. So Billy Beane and the Oakland A's, they have to come through and get a title. I'm still not going to pick the A's, even though they've done well, with the trade deadline and getting Samardzija a month ago. They've got a really good team. They've got a good lineup. They've got a lot of guys that most of the country doesn't even know about. I get all that. But now you're one of the favorites. Now it's time for you to step up and actually win a title to get all the accolades, to more deserve all the accolades that you've been getting for all these years. So we'll see what they have to do. And speaking of the Detroit Tigers, who have been the A's nemesis the last couple of years, they stepped up big the other day, and they got stud left-hander from the Rays, David Price. That's a big-time thing for the Tigers, who have been looking, to win a title. They've lost a couple of World Series in the last few years, and even with the pitching staff that they had, they haven't been able to get over the top. The Tigers are looking really strong. So now that they have David Price to go along with a Cy Young winner, in Justin Verlander and another Cy Young Award winner in Max Scherzer, I believe that gives the Tigers the last 3 American League Cy Young Award winners, if I'm correct. I believe I'm correct. Price, Verlander, Scherzer, all on the Tigers now. And I believe they've won the last 3 American League Cy Young Awards. So I would think that that makes the Tigers the favorites in the American League. They also have some guy named Miguel Cabrera in the middle of the lineup who's won the last 2 American League MVPs, including winning the Triple Crown 2 years ago. So they've got the lineup. They've got the pitching staff. Let's see if they can get over the hump and win a title. I'm not rooting for the Tigers. I'm not a Tigers fan. But they're loaded with pitching. They've got some guys that can hit. So I would think that might make them a favorite in the American League. Excuse me, I don't know. Out in California, the Angels, Pujols is playing really well. Mike Trout is just doing his thing. He's out of this world. He's the best player in baseball. The Angels have a good shot. They've got decent pitching too. But right now, at this moment, now that the Tigers have gotten David Price, if I had to bet the farm, I'd probably bet on the Tigers in the American League. But we'll see how it goes. Another powerhouse, the Dodgers. They stood pat at the trading deadline. Nothing really happened with them. Obviously, they're doing, pretty well. They had a little bit of a slow start this year, but they're playing really well right now. Just came off a fresh sweep of the Atlanta Braves. That hurts the people in my neck of the woods here in Atlanta. I was very happy. I never root for Atlanta. I was happy about that. But the Dodgers are loaded, pitching-wise. They have the best pitcher in baseball in Clayton Kershaw. They have Zach Greinke, who is very, very good and a very solid number 2. They have Ryu, who might be the best number 3 starter in all of baseball, if not the best. He's one of the 2 or 3 best number 3s in all of baseball. They've got a pretty good lineup. They've got Puig in the middle. They've got a resurgent Matt Kemp in the middle of the lineup, who's been tearing the cover off the ball lately. So in the National League, and at the beginning of the season, I picked the Dodgers to win the National League. I'm certainly not going to change my opinion now. I think they're the class of the National League. Maybe the Cardinals will be heard from. I don't know. The Giants have been slumping lately, but they've got a pretty good team. They've won 2 of the last 3 World Series, so I'm not counting the Giants out. But right now, I think it would be the Dodgers against the Tigers in the World Series. If I were betting now, I actually picked the Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays to be in the World Series and the Rays to win it all. But the Rays, even though they've been hot lately, they dug themselves into way too big a hole. I don't even think the Rays will win the playoffs. Will get into the playoffs, I should say. But right now, if I had to pick, I'd pick the Dodgers and the Tigers to be in the World Series. All right, I'm going to move on to the NBA. A very gruesome injury yesterday. Paul George of the Pacers, who's playing on the U.S. team. They're out in Las Vegas. They're scrimmaging, getting ready to play, I don't know if it's the World Games. I forget what it's called. It's not the Olympics, but the World Games or something like that. And they were scrimmaging yesterday. And under the basket, he went to block a shot. And from what I understand, he got his foot caught underneath the stanchion, the big thing that holds the rim and the net out over the court. He got his foot caught under there, and his momentum kept going, and obviously his foot was caught, and that made a very gruesome injury. Got a compound fracture of the lower part of his leg. Most likely he is going to miss the entire upcoming NBA season, and he's the Pacers' best player. And everybody thought the Pacers were going to be really good this past season, and they were. for the first half of the season, and then, as you know, they kind of fell apart and had the meltdown, or the mental breakdown, if you will, whatever you want to call it, and didn't do too much in the playoffs. But I don't know what the Pacers are going to do now. Their best player, Paul George, barring some miracle, is going to be gone for the entire season. Lance Stevenson, who was maybe their second or third best player and a spark plug and very talented, even though he had his issues, he left via free agency to go to Charlotte. So your two best players, or at least your best player and your third best player, are now gone off of your team. So I don't see the Pacers being tremendously competitive in the East. They may get one of the lower spots. Maybe if they're lucky, they may get a 5 spot, in the East. That would be my best prediction for them with everything that's transpired. I don't see it getting any higher than that because what's been going on in the NBA, which I'll talk about in a minute. I don't see the Pacers getting better than a 5 spot in the Eastern Conference of the NBA Finals and of the NBA playoffs, I should say. And I think that might be generous with everything that's transpired, not only with the injury last night, but free agent moves and potential free agent moves to come. That'll be my prediction early for the NBA season. The Pacers will do no better than 5th in the East. If I'm doing a preview of the Eastern Conference right now with things that have happened or I think will happen or have been rumored to happen, just think about the Cavaliers. Obviously, LeBron went home. That turns the Cavaliers, I wasn't going to say from chumps, because they won 33 games, which isn't awesome. But, considering they're young, they've got some talent, 33 games was not horrible for them. But obviously, I would think that 33 will go to at least 53 just by having LeBron come back home. And with the rumored, with the rumors that are out there about the trade that's going to be happening and Kevin Love coming to Cleveland, now that means that Andrew Wiggins will not be there. But if you have LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love, you've got a pretty powerful big three right there. And they actually have, some other, young talent. They have Bennett, who was the number 1 overall pick 2 years ago, who had a bad season overall but showed some signs of life this past season. His rookie season, at the end of the season, he showed some signs of life. So you put LeBron with a great Kevin Love, who's a great scorer, great rebounder, great passer. Obviously, they're not going to be able to double-team LeBron and leave Kevin Love open. You can't double-team LeBron and Love and leave Irving open. There's not enough players on the court to double-team all of these guys. So Love, 26 points, 12 rebounds last year on a mediocre at best Timberwolves team. Now, people dog Kevin Love out. He's been in the league for 6 years and he's a star, never getting to the playoffs. Well, you have to have some talent around you. I know LeBron took a team not only to the playoffs in Cleveland, but to the finals in Cleveland with not much around him. But he's LeBron James. He's special. He's one of the all-time greats. Kevin Love may be the difference to making Cleveland the favorites in the Eastern Conference now. Now, Chicago's going to have something to say about it. They've got Joakim Noah. They've got some good players over there. Derrick Rose is 100% ready to go. So obviously the Bulls will be a challenge for Cleveland. The Heat, I think, will definitely take a step back. Obviously, LeBron is no longer with the Heat, so that's a big step back they have to take. They still have Bosh. Okay, and Bosh is a solid player. Obviously, he's going to be more important in the offense without LeBron being there. We'll see what Dwayne Wade can do. I think in an 82-game season, he might be able to give you 30 or 40 high-level games like we expect to see from Dwayne Wade, but he can't give you a full season 82 high-level games anymore. His knees just aren't going to allow that. So I think in a weak Eastern Conference, I think the Heat can make the playoffs, but they're not going to be any better than probably a 4 or 5 seed, something like that. I think Charlotte is going to be much improved. They just got Lance Stevenson. They made the playoffs last year without Stevenson. I think, they might get a 4 spot or something like that. But the Heat will definitely take a step back. The Pacers, I already mentioned what happened to them. I think it's going to be between the Cavaliers and the Bulls for the tops in the East, assuming that Love comes to Cleveland. Even if Love doesn't come to Cleveland, Cavaliers are going to be a playoff team with LeBron. He is that special. He makes that much of a difference. But as we get closer to, Halloween or whatever the start date is, excuse me, for the NBA, talk more about that, but that's the way I see it right now with what has transpired and what potentially will. So I'm going to move on to my last topic, college football. I still don't understand what it is with these young guys and the pot. I don't get it. Auburn's quarterback, Nick Marshall, had a breakout year last year. Took Auburn to the national championship game where they lost to Florida State. They choked on a 21-3 lead in the second quarter and gave the championship away to Florida State. Credit to Florida State for making the comeback, but when you're Auburn, you're an SEC power, you've got an 18-point lead in the second quarter in the national championship game, you got to put that championship in your pocket. But terrible game for Auburn the last 2.5 quarters. Much respect to Florida State for making the comeback. But anyway, Nick Marshall got, pulled over about a month ago. I think it was about a month ago now. He's got the pot on him. I don't know what it is with these guys. Forgetting about the illegality, obviously you're not allowed to have pot on you. But it's like they test you for these things. You play college football at a major college. You're going to be tested for this stuff. Why can't you get off the reefer? I don't understand it. These guys are just so dumb. It's like, what would these guys be able to accomplish in life if they weren't great athletes? They're so stupid. They have no common sense. It's like, do you have any brain activity at all? Stay off the reefer. Stop committing all these crimes. Try and act like a decent human being with some sort of sense before you flush your career down the toilet. He's suspended for the first game of the season. Okay, they're playing Arkansas. They don't need him to beat Arkansas. Arkansas has been down the last couple of years. So it's like, why don't you send a real message? And I know you're not going to because the money is so big and coaches' jobs depend on winning and things like that. But if you wanted to send a real message, keep them out of the LSU game. Keep them out of the Alabama game. Something like that. Not in a game where they don't even need him. They should be able to beat Arkansas probably by 2 touchdowns even without Marshall. But they're never going to send that message, and to an extent I understand it because, no matter what you want to say about amateur sports, it is a money-making business, and coaches, their jobs are on the line, so they're never going to keep their star player out in a big rivalry game. And I understand that. But you're not really sending him much of a message while he's getting arrested, committing crimes, smoking dope, and you suspend him for a game that you're going to win without him anyway. But that's just my take on it. And a quick preview of college. The top 25 just came out. Of course, the SEC dominates because they're the best. They have 7 of the top 25 teams. 10 SEC teams are in the top 30. So it's just a killer schedule no matter who you're playing in the SEC. It's tough. And they have Florida State ranked number 1. Okay. They just won the national championship. They're loaded. I get it. They're playing in a conference, the ACC, It's one of the 5 power conferences, but if you think about it, the ACC is not that powerful. They have Florida State. Okay, Florida State's really good. I get it. Clemson, they're all right. And everybody else is basically nothing. So Florida State's schedule, they have 2 top 25 games. That's it. They play Clemson, and they play, I'm not sure who the other top 25 game is. Both of them are at Florida State, and it might be North Carolina, who's like 23. But they play 2 top 25 games, both at home. And then their last game of the season, Florida's ranked 27th. They play Florida at home. That's it. That's all they play. So it's very obvious Florida is going to be in that 4-team playoff because they're not going to get a challenge. Is Clemson going to go to Florida State and beat them? No. It might be North Carolina that they play also. Is North Carolina going to Florida State and beating them? No way. Florida, they might put up a decent fight, but again, it's at Florida State. So Florida State, I'm not saying they're playing a schedule like, a few years ago Boise State used to play out in the WAC, where they played absolutely nobody every single week. And, some of these dopey writers would have them ranked in the top 5, and there were 50 teams that played, if they played Boise State's schedule, would go undefeated. So that meant nothing to me. And I'm not saying Florida State's not good. They're really good. They're loaded. They may be the best team in the country. Of course, I would still say that Alabama is. But, it just bothers me that teams are going to get to a national championship game, or now, in this case, a top 4 playoff, and they're not challenged at all to get there. I mean, Florida State's good, like I said, but the teams they're playing aren't. Now, Alabama's ranked number 2, but Alabama is going to play numerous teams that are ranked. I'm looking just at LSU's schedule, for instance. LSU is ranked 13. They play the number 2 team, number 5, number 14, number 19, number 20, and they have 7 games against teams that are in the top 30. Like I said, they play Alabama, they play Auburn, they play outside the conference opening day against number 14 Wisconsin. They play Ole Miss, they play Texas A&M. They also play Florida, just outside the top 25. They play Mississippi State, who's just outside the top 25. It's like the LSU, not just LSU. I hope it is LSU. I don't think it will be, because I think Auburn will win the SEC West, probably followed by, I think Alabama will win the SEC West, probably followed by Auburn. LSU maybe will end up 3rd in the division, similar to last year, a similar bowl to last year. They might go 9-4 or 10-3, maybe LSU. That would be my prediction, but they're not going to be up in the top 4 when it's all said and done. Now, I really want to be wrong about that. They're number 13 right now, but they're not going to end up in the top 4 with 3 or 4 losses, obviously. So I don't see it, but it just bothers me. Like I said, Florida State is loaded. They're definitely a top 4 team, but they're not going to get challenged all year long. Where a team like Alabama, they have to play LSU, they have to play Auburn, they have to play Mississippi State, they have to play Ole Miss. They're playing ranked teams week after week after week after week, just like everybody in the SEC does. And in every other conference, they don't have that. Now, the Big Ten is big football. You got Michigan State, you got Ohio State over there, Penn State is getting better, Wisconsin is good. So I have no problem with the Big Ten. Pac-12, you got Oregon and Stanford. Okay, I'm not impressed with UCLA. I don't think USC's that great. Oregon and Stanford, that's it. The rest is a cakewalk, out there. Big 12, Oklahoma's ranked 3rd, so obviously they're good. Texas has been down the last few years. Oklahoma State might be okay. Baylor is decent, but, just the SEC. Now, granted, I'm an SEC fan. I'm a big LSU football fan. I get it, so I have bias. But the SEC is so tough. You know, you have Georgia, you got South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama, LSU. Both Mississippi teams are ranked now. Vanderbilt is getting better. It's just a gauntlet. I think the SEC team should automatically be in that top 4 playoff, the champion. And maybe even the team that loses the SEC championship game deserves a spot in that playoff. It probably won't happen, but the SEC champion automatically should be in the playoffs because they play by far the toughest schedule in the best conference in the country. But I think that's all I have to say for now. You know how to follow me, Twitter, Facebook. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful weekend. Whatever you're going to do, get out and do it, or sit home and not do it if that's your preference. But enjoy yourself, whatever you're doing for the rest of the weekend. And thanks again for listening. I appreciate it. And we'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.